We live in a world where everybody's trying to trick you. Like everybody's trying to trick you into something or get a hack or a trick. Nothing beats good business. Nothing beats being a network if you can figure out how to make your product something that somebody tells 10 friends about because it's changed their life. If you don't have your mindset and your body right, there's nothing you can do in the business world if you haven't got that sorted. Not for any length of time anyway. Yeah. You have to feel good to do good work.
Jack Hopkins, CEO of Testosterone. Jack has been helping men reclaim their masculinity in a feminine world and awakening the beast that lives inside them. He's a YouTuber with over 120,000 subscribers and is now a professional boxer. He's also the founder of New Elite, a private community, and this podcast is the exact blueprint you need for your first 100k month. It's going to go through a step-by-step process, so listen closely as we're going to go through this with Jack and get into all the details. What's up, people? Before we get into this video, please make sure to subscribe, like, and comment down below so we can get bigger and better guests for you every single week. Let's get straight into the video right now.
Let's kick off. Let's do it, man. So, what made you denounce the famous CEO of Testosterone title?
That was Iman.
Really?
Yeah. Me and Iman had a conversation quite a few months ago, and I was so held on to the CEO of Testosterone name. I just loved it. And he was like, mate, you've got to let that go. Like you can't, you're channeling yourself into a box. And I was like, I'm never letting it go, man. I'm never letting it go. Someone else is going to take that name. It's my name. And he's like, no, your name's Jack Hopkins. And that's the name you should run with. Like, that's you. You're a brand. You're a person. You're much bigger than testosterone and whatever that is. And I finally listened to him because how can you not? I was being a little bit arrogant before and thinking I knew best, but all advice I've taken from Iman has gone well so far. So that's why we dropped the name and just become basically myself.
But why do you think he flagged that though? As an issue? Why do you think he flagged that as something to change?
There was reasons, technical reasons behind the scenes with business and stuff and sponsors and things like that. It's like if you're CEO of Testosterone, you cut yourself into a certain type of demographic and market. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think it was the biggest issue in the world. But at the end of the day, he was like, it's you, like your brand is you. Do you want to be known as you or the CEO of Testosterone? And I was like, I want to be known as me. I think I'm enough of a person to be known for my name. Like I want Jack Hopkins to be the name, not CEO of Testosterone. So that was the plan.
So instead of having testosterone on top, you have Jack on top, and then testosterone is a vertical of what you do.
Exactly.
Instead, as well as boxing.
And CEO of Testosterone. Just watch my recent videos, and I'm fucking ripping it out there. I am the CEO of Testosterone, but it doesn't need to be said anymore.
When we last recorded, you said you like reinvent yourself every 3 months. You feel like you reinvent yourself every 3 months, right?
Damn true.
We've recorded, I think it was about 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And man, you have changed me so much during that process. And not by like you telling me, just by virtue of like being with you. And then I've seen you just completely reinvent yourself during that period. How's it been for you?
The last 3 months for me have been like 3 years. The last 3 months I've done some serious living and some thinking and had some hardships and some trials and breakups and various different things. So I feel like a different person. And I got to a point after we spoke, I was doing really well in my business, making $100,000 a month, and was able to do anything I wanted to do. Like the money was no longer a problem for anything I wanted to do. And I just got to that point of being like, okay, this is fun, but we need to make life hard again. Like let's do a challenge. Let's challenge ourselves. And I realized I've been on a podcast run telling everybody guys should go and fight. Guys should go and be this heroic version of yourself. You should push yourself hard. And then I thought, well, you're just chilling. You're just doing what's easy for you, and you can stay in shape easy and you can do business easy. But what's hard for you? And it was that fear, that ego thing of like, okay, let's put it all on the line for a fight.
How did you feel when you realized that not necessarily you weren't living what you were saying, but you weren't 100% doing what you were saying?
I think you just, for me, it's I like to be as authentic and raw as possible to the people I speak to. And I think as a leader of a network, which I am, of young men that look up to me, that's my absolute responsibility to lead from the front. And I have fought, but when I look back, it's like, hey, I haven't fought in so long. Like, that's irrelevant. Are you still about it now? And I was asking myself, am I still about it now? And that's it. And then that's why we've taken this journey.
It reminds me similar to myself, whereby I claim to be a bodybuilder, but I haven't competed in many years, right? So I went through that existential crisis being like, do I need to compete again? And my coach said to me, he was like, look, do you want to get to 100K or $1 million a month? Or do you want shredded glutes on stage? And I had to just decide that I wanted to build a business. How do you decide whether something is splitting your focus and chasing like shiny penny syndrome, or this is the right thing for you? Like, how did you think about that?
There's no match. There's no trick or tip or business thing that you can do, in my opinion, that beats building the person that you really want to be and the confidence you get from doing the things you said you were going to do. So for me, the biggest play in business, even if it meant taking a cut on money now, which we do, like, I've probably lost 35 grand a month just through taking my focus off the business. So we do about $65,000 a month at the moment, last 2 months of training camp. So that's a lot of money, 70K to go into a fight, because I know the biggest play in business is being what you say you are. The biggest play is showing people that you can do it, and that's worth far more than another trick or focusing a little bit more and dialing a little bit more in. Like, that'll bring me the millions is saying shit and getting it done. And that's what I decided to go down, and I feel it's 100% the right choice for me.
In terms of your focus, you're thinking about, you know, losing money in the business potentially because you're putting into this. Did you ever feel like it's too much?
Yeah. Every other day.
Talk me through that.
All the time. When you're at the head of something and people rely on you, and you have to rely basically solely on yourself, and then you put on this huge stress of a fight and running yourself down, like being mentally exhausted most days, and you're losing weight, you can't find time to eat, you're not hungry, your test's coming down, and you're in a serious battle. You're in a mental battle that teaches you a lot about yourself. Yeah, you do feel like it's too much in days. And I've always advised people, because I know this is the case in a fight camp. I already am aware of this. And a lot of my guys fight because of me in the new Elite R network. A lot of them sign up for their first fights, and I've coached a lot of them just casually through texts and voice notes or calls through preparing for that fight. And I say to them, look, your brain's going to play a lot of tricks on you during this fight camp. There's going to be a lot of days you don't want to do it, where you think this is the wrong idea. You've made the decision. You have to follow it through, and you'll see the glory on the other side. So I catch myself and I go, yeah, this is what you wanted, and this is what you're going to do. So I don't care if you don't like it right now. Go to sleep, wake up, and do it all again tomorrow. And that's where we're at. But we're coming through that now. I'm starting to feel pretty damn good about it.
You were fighting at, like, you know, a good level for many years. You were in and out of training and doing other things, right? What has been that significance when you commit to the fight, like a pro fight, and like the step up in what's demanded? Because for me, it reminds me of when you have like 7 side hustles, and then you leave your 9 to 5, and these side hustles are everything, which was huge for me, right? Like leaving that world. But for you, like this step up in intensity, what did you not expect that has happened?
I just thought I was way better than I was. I just thought I was way better than I was. And I kid you not, I've spent the last 6 weeks getting beaten the shit out of week in, week out by professional fighters in camp, and just been completely humbled and majorly concussed on most weeks, to the point where I'm like, my brain's not really working through the week. I genuinely just need rest and recovery. Sure. My business partner's a godsend for keeping things running and sorting everything out back end, because my time is basically as much as I can give to my network and very little else sort of marketing and sales wise at the moment. So it's been crazy. But the big step up is these pro fighters are not joking around. This is their life. If you decide to pro fight, it's what you do. You can't really do anything else. You don't have the mental space for it. And I didn't realize that going into it. And I thought I was a lot better than I actually am. And I've been broken down, basically. I've been humbled and broken down, and now we're building it for real this time.
I love how you're not saying it, you did it, or you're doing it, and then you're learning from that instead of saying, oh, don't do this because it's bad for the business, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're actually living that example. And like I was saying to the guys earlier, like, fundamentally, the outcome, of course you want to win, right? But it's not about the outcome. From my perspective, looking at you, it's a fact that you're doing this, you put everything into it. You've gone way past the consistency, way past the discipline stuff, and you're really living it, right? And that is what ties into all aspects of life. And there's so many different similarities there across fighting, relationships, how you apply your relationships, how you apply to your business, and how you apply to your life. So how have you found like these lessons from boxing into your overall life right now?
You've got a lot of power. Last time I talked about being a conqueror and sleeping with a lot of girls and stuff.
We'll get back to that point now in a minute as well.
But that's a lesson I've learned through, like, you can't do that when you're boxing.
Yeah.
You have to keep that energy. You can't be going and giving that out. That's absolutely essential. Transmuting your sexual energy into drive and aggression in boxing is fundamentally important. And trust me, I've played both sides. Like, I've experimented all I can. And you have way more energy when you do not have sex. And so that's something that I've cut out of my routine, which was pretty regular for me. Like, I'm suffering right now, man. you know me. Like, this isn't what I'm used to. I'm really quite a monk at the moment, and just into my fighting, and it's been good. I've become closer to God as well. Like, I think you need it when you're going through these kind of things. I spend my time training and praying to God and getting rest, and that my life's become very, very simple.
Were you always religious?
I've not always been religious. And I was raised an atheist, and just found God as I've gotten older. I've talked about on a few podcasts. Still undecided on my religion. I've started to read about Islam and Buddhism. They're probably the two. Mm-hmm. They have their similarities, but when I pray to God, it is just a God. I'm not sure what religion I am yet, but I make sure I'm grateful and I pray, and that's become a much bigger part of my life, I'd say.
All right, people, we're just going to take one short little break for a little update about Podcast University. So if you enjoy podcasts like this and you want to start your own podcast, head down to the links down below to Podcast University. This is a learning platform that I've built to help people like you build, launch, and scale your own podcast. I wasted many years doing this, making it all up as I go. So I put everything together in a very seamless and easy to follow course for you guys to follow and just learn exactly how to do it. So if you want to bypass a lot of the mess with your podcast, check out the links down below to Podcast University, and I will show you exactly how to launch and scale your own podcast.
And again, it's just guiding principles, right?
Yeah.
You're leading a better life. So irrespective of religion, as long as you're leading a better life, right?
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
And I think for me, it pays off even along the way, because you get the messages from people like, I'm fucking inspired by you doing what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And now I'm trying to fight. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all. To train and have an amateur fight and learn that discipline. And a lot of people talk about going away and doing mushrooms and ayahuasca and stuff to find themselves. and Tate said this before: if you train for a fight against another man who's trained in there to knock you out on the night in front of people, where you put your ego on the line, you will find out everything you need to know about yourself in that fight camp. And there's no need for you to go run off to the jungle and trying to find it in some special shake, because you will find it in that gym, and in hardship you'll see who you truly are, and then you can decide what you want to be.
It sounds like you've had like a lot of just changes, like mentally, like and even though you're not going through it, like you're like in it, right? So like you're kind of like a different person in many regards that I've observed. But even though like obviously same fundamental human, right? But I mean, your perspective has changed. And that's quite interesting, right? Because like maybe 3 months ago, there were some things that you may not have thought you would have changed. Like the chicks is one, right?
Well, not even no mistake. I'll be straight back to the chicks when this fight is over. But just in the fight, you can't. Yeah, man, you can't.
Tell me about the assistants.
The assistants. Yeah, just needed some help around the house. Much better to get that help from 3 attractive females, I think, than 3 dudes.
What was the interview process like?
It was, I actually got my first one, Fern, and then she helped me get the other 2, so I didn't really interview the other 2 about. Yeah, Fern's a diamond, to be fair. She's actually very, very helpful. There's a lot of stuff I don't want to do. There's a lot of bills that need paying and people that need paying and various different things, and even bits of cooking and cleaning and stuff that I don't want to do. And you can have 3 assistants around. They like the camera as well. They're good for branding. It's good to have feminine energy and also have feminine energy that you're not involved with in that way. Feminine friends, basically. Yeah, because I don't have female friends. Like, that's not something I'd usually do at all. But it's nice. When I spend a lot of time with guys, it's nice to have just a feminine influence.
What I like to think about this stuff is the fact that people who don't always align with your ideas, right? It's great to have like a group, you know, your brotherhood, your good core friends, but it's good to have an outside perspective.
Yeah.
Whether it's like female friends, and I actually did have female friends before I moved to Asia. Now I have like fucking like no friends basically.
Yeah, and then you have a girlfriend as well. So.
Of course, but the difference between just having like friends and a girlfriend, right?
Yeah. But even for me, it was more like I don't have a girlfriend, and feminine influence is important, I think.
Yeah.
Like there's a wisdom that females have that it's definitely socially that sometimes males really miss out on. So that's good to have around.
100%, man. I want to ask you about the how you're kind of feeling with the stress and pressure. So from observing your work, you know, I've noticed you've mentioned like you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed. Is there a point where that becomes too much for you then?
No, because you just get used to it.
Yeah.
And when you have the coping mechanisms, you can deal with anything, any stress, any pressure. And whenever I start to feel like that, I just remind myself why this is important to feel this way. The worse I feel now, the harder this is, the more I sacrifice, the better I feel once the goal is achieved. And I'm looking forward to that, to reaping those rewards and being able to sympathize and understand people better because I don't feel so good. And a lot of the world doesn't feel good. And now I don't feel good either. So rather than being super happy-go-lucky all the time with everything figured out, I got a lot of stress and things on my plate and hardship that I'm going through. So I find it a lot easier to empathize with guys in my communities, guys who I meet in the hardships of life, which has been super valuable in helping other people and figuring out how do I work through this stuff so I can then help other people work through this pressure and stress.
Because it comes from different angles, right? It's like multifactorial. It's not just to do with the business or the lifestyle or whatever. There's different aspects whereby you can get that stress from. I want to ask you about how you've moved into this, even with your, let's say, new elite or with your 10K accelerator. So it looks like you're building a lot of these principles that you've had mentally and you're being able to apply these. What are some of those kind of core messages you're having people who are building businesses, right? Because the journey from 0 to 10K, we're going to talk about this journey from 0 to 10, 10 to 50, 50 to 100. The lessons are different, but the principles remain the same, right? So how have you kind of like been getting this message across to people starting at your 10K accelerator?
Yeah, with the 10K accelerator, that has stayed very similar to how it was. It's always been about building up your mind and your body, which I'm enforcing now through doing it myself. Showing you that if you don't have your mindset and your body right, there's nothing you can do in the business world if you haven't got that sorted, not for any length of time anyway.
Yeah.
You have to feel good to do good work. That comes from getting your mind and body sorted. That's very easy. That's not training for a fight camp.
Yeah.
This is body destruction, mental destruction. This is hardship. Getting your mind and body right is very easy with the gym sessions we put in there, with the mental models, breaking down the limiting beliefs you might have, and you can start to feel fucking amazing. Once you feel good and you feel amazing, people get that energy from you, and things start to go well in your life. So that's phase 1 of 10K Accelerator. Phase 2 is learning the skill of sales. How do you influence and persuade people to do what you want in your life and also in business and selling things? And then once you've done that, how do you find people to sell for where you don't have to start your business, you don't have to do marketing? How do you leverage another person's brand and close for them and make commissions? We teach them that. We give them the outline to finding those jobs. And we also have a sales professor in there, a guy who's doing multi-7 figures in online sales, who's on calls every week with them, just running them through it. So the students are having crazy success, finding jobs that are insane. We've got guys moving out from the 10K Accelerator, joining the new elite in Thailand, guys 19 years old, making 7 to 10 grand a month, online high ticket closing. And then the final part of 10K Accelerator goes a bit more into your branding. Like once you've closed for someone else and you've built that up, how do you brand yourself so you can sell your own products?
Let's focus more on the sales thing apart from first, because you had background in sales as well before you moved into obviously developing your own sales program.
Yeah.
And you mentioned persuasion, influence, authority. How do you think about that in sales, especially with closing? And like, what are the philosophies you're bringing through? Because I think everyone has a different interpretation of how that works.
Yeah, for me, I still close. So inside of my business, I did have closers for me for the new elite, but now I feel it's better because it's my brotherhood, really. The new elite is not just some network. These are the guys I spend regular time with, and I want them to be guys I enjoy spending time with. Like, there's not many networks you can join say you join today and be at a fight club with me, hanging out with me in 3 days' time in Thailand, like you'll know where I am, you'll be invited, included in your membership. And that's special. That's rare. Like these are the people that I want to see win and grow around me and who help me and I help them. And I invest a lot into the people that are in. So I do a lot of the closing myself now, which has taught me a lot more, put me back into the world of sales. And I think one of the biggest things that you can do in sales is your enthusiasm about somebody else's journey, about them winning. If I can be more enthusiastic about your fitness journey, about you getting ripped than even you are, you then believe in me, because all people really want is someone to believe in them a little bit, to show them a spark of hope and to give them a bit of guidance. And they've normally got what it takes inside if somebody just shows them that, like, I believe in you a little bit. And so a lot of my sales calls is just understanding somebody and what they want out of their life, understanding them and their troubles and their hardships, and then just getting excited with them about the future and showing them a little bit of the path and how we would execute, and encouraging them to basically take the leap. And that's worked very, very well for me. I think nothing really beats enthusiasm once you know and trust and have a great product. If you can be enthusiastic to someone and really bleed that into them, you become like gold dust to them.
And that influence coming from someone like you, who's kind of been there and done it, is very unique, man. Like, I know it can be quite intentional. You're saying you want to be someone that supports them, but not many people are like that, though. Most people are sitting on this pedestal and they're like, yeah, I'll come into this course, we have a bunch of closes, whatever. But the fact that you're very personalized to this makes people get really involved in that journey, right? Because you're sharing that transformation and you're helping them walk through that aspect, right? So, and that probably feeds into what you're teaching in sales, right? Because those aspects of persuasion and helping people are much more valuable than just tactics.
Yeah.
Pure tactics, right?
And we live in a world where everybody's trying to trick you. Like, everybody's trying to trick you into something or get a hack or a trick. Like, nothing beats good business. Nothing beats being a network. If you can figure out how to make your product something that somebody tells 10 friends about because it's changed their life, that beats any marketing campaign. That beats any trick or ad campaign in the book. Just making something good and being a real person and doing what you say you're going to do. It's all very, very simple. We like to overcomplicate because the hardest work is done within. The hardest work I could possibly have done was making me better by going through a fight. Everything else was easy to me. Increasing business, sales, bringing in more leads, customers, traffic, all of that is trivial. But what really matters is creating something that you're proud of and becoming a person that you're proud of. And that's the hard work. And if you do that and you just stay on track with that and become really authentic and you show up every day, you can't not win.
Of course.
Yeah.
And especially in sales, because like, people say sales is a numbers game, but to some degree, when you're having those skills and you're improving constantly, it's inevitable that if you're hopping on these, like, let's say 8 closing calls a week, you close 1, the following week you might close 2, you might close 3, you're going to get to that 10K stage, right? And the skills stay with you much longer. So when I was selling $4,000 a month partnerships, it was like, it was tough, whatever, so on and so forth. Now we do $60,000 a year contracts. Not $4,000 a month, $60,000 a year. And the stakes are bigger, but I've learned those skills from being at 5K to 10K a month. And they've grown on. And to quote you from our last podcast, I mentioned you before being like, should you always sell your own stuff? And you said, no, you should learn skills. You should learn sales. And then that will stay with you long enough, right? And someone who learns sales will never go broke again, right?
100%. Yeah. Once you learn sales, that's the beginning of the end. Like, you're not going to be broke. You're going to learn a lot about life in general and being able to paint the life and the reality that you want. Sales is much more than just selling something to someone. Sales is your interactions with people. It's your ability to carve your way through life to get what you want. There's very few times I don't get what I want in day-to-day interactions because I understand people. I know how to talk to you. I know how to make you tick. I know how to get the things that I want, and it makes my life a joy. It makes my life go the way I want. A lot of people get down. They're like, nothing ever goes my way. That's because you don't understand how to make other people tick.
How do you do it?
There's so many different things. So I'll give you an example. One that's quite raw and you can understand instantly, but most people get completely the wrong way. If you tell somebody they're something, they become it. But the majority of us tell the people that are negative influences on our lives that they are negative influences on our lives. So if you tell someone who's always late and you brand them as the late person, they will continue to be late. if you redecide how you're going to speak to them and talk to them, and you breed something different into them, so you start basically telling them that they're super organized, super punctual, you speak to them in that way, and you just reward the very good things that they do, even if it's a few, even if they turn up early one time and the rest of the time they're late, and you tell them on that time, man, it's awesome that you're early. Great work on getting here on time today. It breeds a little something in their life. Most people are so used to people, if they've got a negative trait, if they're the grumpy person or the negative person, they're so used to people saying that they become it. And if you can flip it on its head, even if it's not true, even if you have to grit your teeth to say it, and you brand someone as something else, and you just take the very small positive parts of their personality and you repeat them back to them, they will become that person. You'll watch them flower and flourish. Once you've done that to someone, you essentially now have somebody who will do anything for you because you've allowed them to become a better version of themselves. And that's just that's one very, very simple part of sales and psychology that I use on a fairly regular basis, is just ignoring the fact that you'd like to tell someone they're bad at something, and find the very few things they do well and encourage those things, and they will flourish before your eyes into a new person.
All right, guys, one short little update for Voix. I want to give a short little overview about my own company, my media company called Voix. So if you are a company or you are an enterprise looking to grow your brand and looking to grow your podcast, feel free to reach out to work with us at Voix. What we do is a fully fledged end-to-end management of your podcast. We take care of the strategy, the consulting, we take care of the growth, the management, we take care of all the editing, all the boring stuff, so you can focus on creating good podcasts and growing your brand. If you want to grow your podcast and get to new users, if you want to grow your business, generate more revenue and all that good stuff, check out the links down below to Voix. You can follow through to schedule a call with our team, or else you can fill out the application form to see if you qualify to work with us. Thank you.
It's positive reinforcement, right?
Big
Versus just, and I think that's a big fault to just everything online, is the fact that you're never often told when you've done something well, you're often told when you do something wrong.
Yeah.
And whether it's teachers, you're a kid, professors, scorecards, gradings in school, whatever, no one says when you've done well or well-ish. It's always highlighting the fails and the reds and the negatives and the lost clients and so on and so forth.
I saw it so visually myself, because I had a teacher that just said, and I didn't even know if he was being legit or true about this, or whether he said it to everyone because it was the kind of guy he was, but there's a teacher called Mr. Zadie of my secondary school, who in my first year of secondary school said I had a fairly bad parent-teacher conference where most teachers were like, yeah, he's an arrogant son of a bitch, and he's like, he doesn't listen and he talks too much. And then this one teacher, Mr. Zadie, said that I was incredibly talented in filmmaking, the most talented student he'd ever seen in media. He was like, he's an absolute superstar in media. He's so talented in filmmaking, and his love for film. He's one of the most incredible students that I've ever seen. And I don't know if that was true at the time, but that bred me into being just an absolute star student in his media class. There was I would never do anything wrong in his class. I would try my absolute hardest because he'd put that belief and that faith in me that had turned me into that person. And then I'd had it where I'd tried it in other classes where I tried to be good, and people had just found the bad parts, the negative parts, and I'd become the villain. I find it in myself so easily. I'm just the same as everybody else. If somebody encourages me in something, I'll become the hero. If they're negative to me, I'll become the villain.
And even if they don't say something bad, right, you just highlight something. Yeah. So I can give you an example of that. So when I was younger, I was so shit at school. Just didn't want to go to school as a kid. So I was often sick, but not really actually sick, right?
Yeah.
And because of that, I just lacked some basic education, right? I was out for exams and so on and so forth. So I did a test for dyslexia, and they said it was positive for dyslexia or whatever the fuck it is, right? So they were like, Darren is bad at English, he's bad at grammar, he's bad at writing.
Yeah.
So from the ages of 7 all the way up in secondary school, I just had that negative thought.
Yeah.
And then from secondary school, then because I had that, I didn't try it English, I didn't try it so on and so forth. So I was at the bottom of those classes. But now I write every single day. I wrote every single day for 3 years, bear in mind. All of my sales comes from sales letters or emails or posts or whatever, right? And I would say that I'm better at writing, or as good as writing as most people.
Yeah.
Right? And I would also say that I'm not even dyslexic. I'm actually being serious. I don't even think I was. I think I was just lazy.
Yeah.
And that was something that was told to me at like 7 years old. And even though I'm good at like maths and so on and so forth, I just thought it was interesting because I just grew into my brain thinking I wasn't good at something. When to this day, I don't even think we could probably test it.
Yeah.
You know, effectively.
That's the key. That right there is the key. Like you just become who you meant to be. Like,
and I don't mean to interrupt you, sorry, but I remember I was so self-conscious of this that Elise used to read my posts before they go out for how many years? Maybe like a year. So yeah, about a year and a half. And then for the last year and a half, she hasn't.
Yeah.
And then about a week ago, I was like super tired. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I was put up a post and I was like, can you just read this super quickly? And she was like, that's like the best copy. She's like, I've seen in like so long. And I was like, oh, I just did that like freehand. And she was like, what the fuck? She was like, I used to review like the shittest text ever from you like 2 years ago. But it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
You just lock yourself away, you get better at something. Yeah. And the positive reinforcement for me was like sales, views, downloads, clicks, whatever, right?
So I think the beautiful thing is you just have to decide who you want to be. That's the most fundamental thing. It's like decide who you want to be. Don't listen and wipe clean any of the negative beliefs that have been enforced on you by other people and their limits for whatever reasons they have. And decide who you're going to be and then become that person. And don't let anybody get in your way when it comes to doing those things. And your life will start to become much more beautiful.
100%, man. I want to talk about the transition from 10 to 30K.
Yeah.
So for me, things got a lot more complex. When I was like 10K a month, it was like I was kind of doing everything. And then at like 30K a month or like 20K a month, I was kind of like fucking super overburdened and really distressed because I couldn't handle it. And then I kind of got into like 30K a month, and now we kind of have a very good team as a result of that. How do you kind of see that transition and the guys you work with, like, and talk through that kind of process?
Yeah, so at the end of the day in business, I believe it's very important to be putting money in your own pocket. So the reason we're doing this is to become wealthy and abundant in our lives. And a lot of people, I think one of the first issues they make is they actually start paying the business before they pay themselves. So they actually invest their money back into the business too quickly, in my opinion. I believe to be the best person you can be, you have to feel abundant and you have to feel the benefits of this business. So that starts with, at 10K a month, optimizing your life, putting more money in your bank, buying an optimized standing desk, getting the best Mac, getting the headphones that you wanted, dressing the way you wanted, becoming that person, that character. And then you feel, okay, I feel like $1 million now. Let's go and make some money. This is the lifestyle that I want. And then you can start looking at branching out and growing your business. But my number one thing is that money it ends up in my account. That's the reason we're in business. The wealthier I become, the more people I can help, the better I'll be, the higher vibration I'm at, and the more money I can make. A lot of people get super stressed. They run low margin businesses. So they focus on having 30 mil a year revenue, but none of that ends up in their pocket. For me, I'd much rather just have an optimized life where I'm putting money in my pocket and my team's smaller than having the biggest business in the world, but not making any bloody money.
So I laughed because my background was in startups, tech startups, VC backed, right? And, you know, some of our friends have raised 35 million, 50 million, some have raised 100 million. And they've built $50 million, $100 million businesses and they're broke.
Yeah.
Because one, they've diluted themselves all the way down. And not intentionally, just over time conditioning of raising capital. And then when they do make their exit, it's going to be proportioned down as a result. So they actually end up making a lot less as a result. And this isn't me bashing them. This is them telling me how they would recreate this, which would be cash flow.
Yeah.
And, you know, working up to like, let's say it's either a solopreneur or a coaching business whereby your margins are 98%, right? Or whatever, right? Yeah. And as a result, the 30, 40K you make a month that goes in your pocket puts you literally as one of the most wealthiest people on the planet.
Yeah. You want to put, in my opinion, you want to put 100K in your pocket each month. And
Iman said that, didn't he? He was saying that like a lot of people who do real estate, for instance, they have this asset valuation of like, I don't know, like 60 million, but they're actually kind of broke.
Yeah, it's like you're not rich, man. You got no cash, and that's not a nice way to live. So I think there's plenty of ways to, that first business should be a cash cow.
Yeah.
That's what most coaching businesses are. If you figure out your high ticket model, there's so much you can do now with AI and bots and softwares that you really don't need a big team.
Yeah.
That if you do things slick and I think you should just be focused on an incredible product, incredible quality, our difference is like 10K, I understand my audience is split. So there's a lot of guys that are not making any money online yet. The 10K accelerator is for them. It's to give them the start, to get their mind and body right, to get into sales, to learn the things I learned that got me out of the slump of making literally no money. And then there's parts of my audience that want to be around me. They want to go from 10 to 100K. They want to go from 100K to a million. That's what the New Elite is about. So that's why we have 2 products. But for most people, I think you should focus on one. You make it absolutely fantastic. You go quality over quantity. You go super high ticket. And you get your clients in, you focus on them, and you build something absolutely beautiful. And everything you do has this air of just this grace and elegance to it. And this, what's the word when something's special and exclusive? Exclusivity. I've been looking a lot into branding. Super important. Become exclusive and luxury brand. Do not try and make a cheap product for the masses at the start.
You should read a book called Purple Cow by Seth Godin. Have you read it?
No, I haven't read it.
See a purple cow? What do you look? You look at it, it's a fucking purple cow. Milka took the branding from them because it was so remarkable. So the whole idea is your branding or your brand is meant to be remarkable, that if you looked at a lot of cows, they're all businesses, one that's purple will pop out.
Yeah.
And Seth Godin wrote about this because you want to step on people's toes, you want to have an opinion, you want to split the audience. And when you do that, you become a category of one, which is another great book, and therefore you stand on your own pedestal, right? Yeah. So when I came into the podcast agency space, which is basically what we are anyway, our media company, there was a few other people who I knew personally that were doing very well. But we were younger, more vibrant, we got it, we got design, we got the vibe, we got the feel. So we just were able to acquire a lot of customers because we were young at this, right? And that was the purple cow, was the fact that I live it and breathe it, and then we could capitalize on it. And that's you as well, right? You've created... There is no other CEO of Testosterone, right? There could be a deputy on the way, but no one's replacing the CEO, right?
No one's taking it from me. And it's big, yeah. That's a huge part. I think our purple cow in the New Elite is mixing adventure and personal challenge with business, and obviously building. Like, you don't just want to be a nerd that does business. And our guys know that. That's why a huge part of one of our things in the New Elite is you have to fight. Every man must fight. You become a whole new different person when you start sparring with other guys. You build better friendships, better bonds. We got guys now in the Bangkok Fight Club. We've got 60 guys that have come to Thailand. We're running fight clubs every week, and then these guys are going doing business together and just absolutely just blowing things out the park. Like 18, 19-year-olds making 10, 15 grand a month together, going on holidays to Phuket and like getting villas and stuff, and then building their personal brands and hanging out with me. And that's awesome in my opinion. And we've built that off the back of being the network that is like, you're not going to get away with being a crypto dork or some nerd in business. Like, you have to come in here, you have to fight, you have to learn social skills, you have to learn branding, and you have to basically put in what you'll get out.
100%, man. I want to ask you about branding. We can lean into that. So what advice would you give Credit Repair Jack? If you had to start again.
Credit Repair Jack's so funny. If there's any clips you guys can find, but just fire it up now on the thing when we're in the.
It's so funny, man. What the fuck is Credit Repair?
Just fire up Credit Repair Jack right now on the screen. Well, in post production. But yeah, Credit Repair Jack was when I first started a personal brand. I bought my first ever online course, and it taught me how to make a personal brand. And it said I needed to talk on the Instagram stories every day, and then save them underneath in the thing. And that's how I start to build an audience. And I needed to find my flow. I needed to find who I was as a creator. And so I started doing these. The one thing I was doing at the time was getting a good credit score, because I was reading these books. So like, okay, if you have a good credit score, you can get a house and shit. And like, things will be way easier for you if you get this score. So I was looking into it, and I was like, okay, yeah, I can do that. I got on the electoral roll, and I sorted out some credit cards, and I paid my bills, and I set up a couple of different things, and my credit score got really good. So then I was like, I'd just done this course, and I was like, you know what? I'll teach people about credit, because that's the first thing I've done.
You looked as if you were like 12.
I looked 12 years old. I had these crazy glasses at the time. They weren't sunglasses. They were like these big actual glasses.
From Specsavers.
Like, big Specsavers. They were from Specsavers. And I don't even wear glasses anymore. I just decided to not wear them, yeah.
My left eye's fucked, man. And I don't even wear glasses. I have to.
And yeah, that was Credit Repair Jack. It was my start in the journey. And I'd sell this to everyone in the New Elite, and anyone I speak to is like, you're never going to know what it's going to become, but you've got to start, because without starting, you'll never get there. Like I very quickly transitioned out of being credit repair. I very quickly gained confidence, but nothing beats creating a life that people are interested in and becoming a person that people admire. Nothing beats that. Most people want to sit on camera and they want to be a creator for the fruits of being a creator. They want to be a creator for the money or the leads, but you can't think about it like that. You have to be a creator to create and show and inspire people and become something that you're proud of. That's the thing. Most people are sitting down and trying doing a cookie cutter approach to making content and bulk just talking on camera and giving advice that you can see they don't really give a fuck about that much. When you become something and you achieve something and you do crazy things that the world want to see, you will become a creator. It's inevitable. It's better than any trick. That's why I moved to Thailand. That's why I'm not credit repair Jack sitting in my bedroom still talking about credit repair, because I realized, okay, I've got to do something great. I've got to challenge myself. I've got to be scared. Okay, let's go to Thailand. Let's do this. Let's sign up for a fight. Let's go all around the world. Let's start a business, put it all on there. Let's go and talk to hot girls and try and have loads of girlfriends and just be a person that people want to look at. Yeah.
I think that's why people don't survive long term. Yeah. Right? Because they see, like, let's just give an example, like a short form content agency. So let's create loads of content on how to create short form content. But they know that they don't give a fuck about that. It's a short shelf life and they have no interest in it. Right. But what I observed from you, and we were discussing this earlier as well, about the fact that you're very good at observing what's working and then leaning into it. So the credit repair Jack left and he replaced it with the Thailand content. You were starting fighting, you were getting a good few views on that, but then you were doing other like testosterone stuff, so you were leaning into it. So like, what's your principle for leaning into that type of content that supports the business? That's a complex question, but there's a lot involved there. But I think that's a big part of like why you're successful.
That's huge. If I was to tell you how, for me, getting to 100K a month all comes from virality. It comes from content that people want to watch. It comes from attention. You have to gather and make this attention happen. If you can't do that's your biggest struggle, because then you have to buy your attention via ads, and that's expensive. That's why I've got such an advantage over people that run ads. I've never run any ads. So easy, organic content, people that are bought into you and your mission. So that's important. How do you find that? You find that through testing, and that's why your content will be all over the place at the start. Your content should be wild, and then you should eventually find what works. And until you do, you never stop testing. So with your shorts content, rather than making another 100 of you sitting in front of the camera talking videos that are getting 5 views, you think, okay, we need to switch the approach here. If I was hanging from a tree eating bananas, would somebody watch this and then go and do it? Or if I talk to girls on camera and have a secret mic, would that get views? And you try and tie it into certain parts of your business. If a girl asked me questions on a Q&A, if I sat down with a hot girl, if I had 3 assistants in my videos, would I get more views? This is all testing virality. You find what works and then you run down the angle. So for me, the first thing that happened on my channel was I took out my camera and did some cold approaching with Hamza. And that worked. And then I thought, okay, maybe that's just a flash in the pan. Maybe that's just because Hamza was in the video. But it wasn't. When I continued to do cold approaching on my own and go down my avenue of talking about this kind of stuff, masculinity content, people were watching it. So we went further into that. But at first, you've got to test. Stop doing the same things if they're not working.
You're testing the right stuff. So that's what's interesting, because a big struggle I find when I speak to creators, or when I observe creators, is that they do something that's different and it's completely misaligned to what they do, right? So let's say, I'll give you a stupid example.
Yeah.
For you, like masculinity, right? If you came out and started doing feminine content, and then that worked.
I started doing makeup tutorials. Right?
But if that worked, then, and you were like, oh my God, I'm going to keep on doing that, then it's like, ooh, you just got completely in the wrong direction, right? Yeah. But I think, but people struggle with that though, because people will lean into what had worked, but it was the wrong fucking vertical. So kind of how I structure it, or how we structure it for clients, is like, you on top, Jack Hopkins, and then you have like testosterone, foxing, the money, the business, the chicks, right? But they all tie back in together. They're like interconnected, right? And they come into the products and the services.
Yes.
But most people are like, new vertical, I'm driving fucking sports cars that are nothing to do with all this shit, and end up going in the wrong direction, right?
I think you've got to keep it. So if you look at my content, it's always been around helping others. If you can help others, then you can sell products. Yeah. Because people get so much value from you for free, they feel like they want to buy your stuff and they want to get closer to you, and they feel like they like you.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, when they test virality, they forget to help people at the same time. So that's where they often they go into entertainer territory, which is another option. You can be an entertainer and make great money through your sponsorships.
Logan Paul.
You don't have to build a business. If you want to build a business, you have to figure out, I think that was a bit I probably missed just then. You figure out your branding and then you test angles on that branding. So for me, obviously, I've figured out those angles and who I am and what I believe in. Nothing goes against that. I'm not going to hop on and start making male makeup tutorials because I know that's not an angle. But I've still got loads of things I can test to see what's sort of most viral and brings in views that ties into the brand.
Something that has been kind of concerning me, I guess, in minor regards is you've obviously read Hormozi's first book.
Yeah.
So the value equation is like, the whole book's around a value equation, which is like dream outcome. So getting that goal.
Yeah.
Multiplied by perceived likelihood of achievement. So trying to get to that goal, divided by time required, multiplied by effort required. Big problem I kind of have with the online business space is that guys will sell that dream, right? Whether it's like become a copywriter or do this, whatever. And they kind of exasperate the dream outcome, likelihood of achievement, time required, and effort required because they know that they're the levers they can pull, right? Do you kind of think about that in terms of like other creators and how they're kind of like shilling shit basically versus staying true to what's realistic?
I think at the end of the day, there's a big difference between overselling the dream outcome to somebody and selling a scam, for example. So you can oversell someone the dream outcome. You can make it seem sweeter than it is. I don't see too much wrong with that. I've bought stuff myself that's been like that. And most people are smart enough to see like there's going to be some hard work involved. If you think if you're going to join anything and it's going to be a get rich quick, you don't have to do any work or change as a person or figure some stuff out, then you're an idiot. Like, it's not the creator's fault. Like, you shouldn't believe what people say. Like, you've got to know the fundamentals of life. If you want to get somewhere, you're going to need to do some work. And that's with anything at all. No one's selling you a get rich quick scheme. They don't exist. But what the smart people know is, okay, I can understand. Maybe he's putting that a little bit heavy on the dream outcome and the time it will take. But I know with my effort and my work, if I just know a little bit about his path to get there, if I can just get a little bit of that equation, I'll get my value back for what I paid for that course. And that's what I've known with everything I've bought. I've spent probably 50 grand this year on courses, mentorships. I take a tiny little bit of each course. I'm not looking for it to change my life, even if they tell me it can. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for my one bit of the equation that puts me a little bit further on. That's why you buy this information from the people who know it. For example, webinars. I learned webinars this year. I can now do a webinar that makes 50 grand. Probably not tomorrow, by the end of the week. I can promo a webinar, funnel people into it. I know exactly how to write webinars now that sell, and I can make 50 grand by the end of the week, dollars, for doing a webinar. And I got that from a 5K course that I did earlier in the year, and I implemented little bits of it, and then I experimented with it multiple times. Yeah. Like, that's what it's about. And that course said it was going to make me $1 million a webinar, but I'm not angry. Like, I'm not angry that it didn't make me $1 million. I think most people that get real caught up in that, they're normally looking for something for nothing. They're looking for something without working.
And that's a big issue with this shit, right? Is that you can go into this situation because you're a business owner. Yeah. You understand this and you understand there's effort involved. But people coming from the beginning are like, oh, dream outcome, this is how I achieve it. So I think you've been able to break that down very realistic, especially through your videos, right? Because you have this longer form, 20-minute videos of you speaking, or the 50-minute videos, man, which are so valuable. You're breaking into webinars. I love watching those as well. I want to ask you about some of the challenges you've had going from 50K to 100K, but maybe on the personal side of things, right? Because like you're a big name, I guess. You know, you're not even niche anymore.
We're getting there. It's pretty crazy.
At that point, did you find that like you developed some bad habits in terms of like ego and whatnot as you were getting into this like attention, money, like everything's moving in the right direction?
Yeah, I definitely got a bit of I think the first thing to go when you start making 100 grand a month and it's coming out of thin air, like you just feel like you can do no wrong. The first thing you stop doing is you start thinking you know it all. So you stop evolving and learning and growing. And that's a fatal mistake. You start thinking like you fucking know it all and you don't want to listen to other people anymore. That was a mistake I made, but quickly corrected. I just thought, okay, I'm not going to do a couple of things. I'm not going to learn this. I can't be asked to learn that. I stopped reading a little bit because I was too focused on living. And sure enough, you see things start to decline. Businesses need constant attention. They need to improve and get better, and things need to grow. And if you take time away from that because you think you've got it figured out, you'll quickly have your money taken from you and you'll be back where you started. So that's a lesson I learned pretty quickly. Got over it fairly quickly as well. Literally all it took was me. It takes me very little. It only takes me dropping for a week or two in revenues or profits for me to then think, okay, I'm doing something wrong, to look, reassess, okay, I've stopped learning and developing. This is what we need to do. We didn't do this output, and fix it. So I think that can happen. It definitely happened to me through the summer, just thinking I was the shit, didn't need to learn anymore, quickly recorrected, started learning again, started making more money again. So it's definitely something that can happen to anyone, I think.
What about other people coming into your life? So of course, like, you know, the CEO is a big name. Did you find that like relationships kind of started to change, or people kind of wanted shit from you? Does that ever feel a concern to you?
I'm a very generous person anyway, so I try and make sure everyone's looked after around me, and I give a lot and do as much as I can. But I'm also super real and like I'm fairly like I'm not a pushover. I can be aggressive and put my foot down very easily. And so I think people know that and can feel that about me. So I know I haven't been taken advantage of. Nobody ever comes into my life that I don't trust. I've got a very strict screening process for people that I trust in my life anyway. So my circle stayed very, very similar. Things have been fantastic, to be honest, with my circle of friends and people that join the New Elite. The beautiful thing about that and hanging out with people that are in your network is they're invested in your vision. So I only hang out and meet with people that are invested in my vision, and they have had the humility to spend $5,000 with me, which is a big compliment from someone to say that your content's helped them that much that they're willing to spend that money with you. And then it puts you in a position of basically being able to trust that person. I've spoken to them before. I screened them. They've spent that kind of money with me. They love my stuff. They're looking to improve their lives. They're aligned with my vision. So the people around me are, in my opinion, safe. Like they're good people. And the people I've known from before have remained the same. Nobody's gone crazy on me or done anything like that. Like a lot of what I do is giving anyway. So I don't think anyone ever feels too jealous. Not that I've seen. Everyone's been cool.
And it comes from you doing the work internally, right? Because you've done that work. It hasn't been like you blew up overnight. It's obviously been like big curve. But for instance, for
2 years now.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot longer than most people, right?
Yeah.
I was joking with one of my mentors on Sunday. We were having lunch together, and he was saying like, "Oh, you know, when I listen to these kids, they've been at it for 4 years, and it's been so long." And bear in mind, he's been doing it for like 20 years, 30 years, right? He's like, "I'm going up to 3 years. Like I've been doing this for 3 years." Bear in mind, and I feel like that's long, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like for someone like yourself, you have done the work internally, so you can analyze this stuff, and you've done the vetting process. But for some people, I think they kind of struggle in this because they get a shit ton of money from a Boohoo contract, and then all their friends want part of it, and they're seen much more as like an object versus a friend.
Yeah.
As a result.
Well, the way around that is you've got to be selfish. You've got to remain selfish. Like nobody's getting paid before me. Like no one's getting paid before me. Like people see me be generous and they see me give money away or look after other people. I assure you right now, nobody's getting paid before me. I can only look after everyone the best once I'm fully looked after. If I'm comfortable, I'm looked after, that's when everyone else gets looked after. Most guys end up not being selfish enough. That's why they lose it. They want to give everything too soon to everyone else, and they're left with nothing for themselves. That's why you've got to take time for yourself. You've got to remain selfish this whole way through. It's the only way you can help more and more people is by remaining for you. And that's one thing I've always done well, is looked out for me. I got here on my own. And I know for a fact that I can stay here if I look out for me. If I let other people infiltrate that, whether that be a girlfriend or family or friends, and I start putting too much time into someone else before me, I will not have enough to give to everybody else. So that's important. Always pay yourself first. Be selfish. Do what you want to do. That people will thank you for it in the end, and they also respect it. Most people are a lot more relaxed than you'd think.
Of course.
Yeah.
And that's why when you put the time into boxing and the business has come back, this is something you want to do, right? It's part of your mission, it's part of your journey, and like it's part of your evolution. So you're going to be a new person next 3 months, right?
Yeah, 100%.
But this is how you've changed.
Yeah.
It's not by just beating your head off the fucking floor doing the same stuff every day.
Yeah, I can't do that. That's not who I am. I have to have this change and evolution and become someone new. I have to be growing or I'd get fucking stressed. I could literally spend 2 months at 100 grand a month doing what I was doing before I thought, okay, I need to do something harder.
Question for you on that is, how do you appreciate the good times though when you're in them on that? So you hit 100k a month.
Yeah.
It's going well.
Oh, mate, I was the happiest I've ever been. I had a period of complete bliss.
And that's euro, dollar, or pound? Pound.
That's dollars.
Dollars.
$100,000 a month. 110,000 is our top month so far. And we've done about 100. And we've done 85, back to 100, 65 last 2 months in fight camp. And more money than I possibly need.
Man, and that's the funny thing with this. It's like, oh, okay. But this is what's interesting, right? Because we were discussing this earlier, how like fundamentally we get so caught up in these numbers that you don't see them, and you're doing this really well because you're putting in your bank account and you're seeing deposits and you're spending it on shit you want. But we get so caught up in it because when you leave your 9 to 5 to go into like sales, for instance, if you're not careful, you swap one matrix for another. And it's like moving to like Dubai, for instance. If you move to Dubai, I've heard people say that it's like swapping one matrix for the Dubai matrix, because it's like you meet someone and they're doing $250,000 a month and you're like, oh, I'm fucking useless doing 100k a month, right? And that happens because it's chasing the status. And I'll give you another story from a mentor. I was in his resort at the weekend. It was just very topical, like timely. And the place was like a 5 to 7 star resort in Bali. It was fucking nuts. And I was like, dude, like, I was joking, being like, I'm never going to get to this stage. And he was like, let me tell you the story about how I was on a jet. He said that he was on a jet recently with this like real rich, like royal family. And he was like, I'm never going to get to this jet status. The guy in the jet was comparing himself to his friend who had 4 other jets. Right? And it just kept on going. The cycle keeps on going, right? So you swap one for another. So that's why I'm asking about the appreciation, right? Yeah.
So for appreciation, I love it. You always want more because you want a challenge for me, but the more is, it's much better to have your freedom. Now I've got my freedom.
Yeah.
So no, if things stop working tomorrow, it's okay. I got loads of money in the bank. I'll figure something out. It's not a problem. So I'm free. I'm happy. And I got to a point with making 100 grand a month where I was just in bliss. I spent a good probably 3 weeks in total bliss. I was like, I've never been this happy in my life. I've never been this happy. It was actually when I first arrived in Bangkok. At the new penthouse. I was going out to the best places in Bangkok every night. Beautiful girls. Just hitting the gym, do business going incredibly well. And I was just in absolute bliss. I was giving loads. I was just giving money away like crazy, like in the streets, like just giving so much joy and happiness. And I lived in that period of bliss for about 3 weeks. And then I was like, all right, this is enough now. You're going to this isn't good for you to be like this. We're getting distance from everybody else. This isn't how everybody else feels. It's not how your audience feels. So we need to go and make things hard again. And I was like, okay, let's fucking sign up for a fight.
And that's part of designing your dream life, which I think is a big area that I've observed, is the fact that you've been able to kind of do a lot of like visualization, manifestation, just kind of getting that your ideas are into stuff. Question for you about that is like, when does like manifestation become mental masturbation?
Well, manifestation is a very, very small part of your day. So if it becomes anything more than 30 minutes of your day, then it's mental masturbation. The key is to get the outcome clear so that you can start to be guided towards it. You cannot go and find the destination if you haven't marked it on a map. If you don't know where you're going, you will never get there. So first, you must have a very clear vision of where you want to go. And every day you must think about that vision. And that is it. And that must be followed by tremendous action to go and get those things. So if it's any more than 30 minutes a day manifestation or any of that other stuff, you're overdoing it. You spend your 30 minutes, you write down your goals, you look at them every day, you envision that life, you breathe it into your head, and then you go and you do as much as you can for that day to get towards that vision. Then you clock off and you do it all again.
What got you into that?
The first time I ever did any of that stuff was young. I think it was probably Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within was my first ever time doing that. And I actually, no, it wasn't. It was Jack Canfield's The Laws of Success. or The 25 Principles of Success by Jack Canfield. It's one of his books. He did Chicken Soup for the Soul and a couple other self-improvement books. But I read that when I was 14. And I've always had a wild imagination. And I started dream boarding and doing things like that when I was about 14 years old, about what I wanted, who I wanted to be. At the time, I wanted to be an actor. That was my goal. I wanted to be Leonardo DiCaprio.
I remember you mentioning that, man.
Yeah.
But even talk me through like that process, right? Because like I want to ask you actually about books. So firstly, is like how have you've been reading so much, right? So like what are some of your biggest influences there from reading, consuming, and actually actioning that content, right? Because whenever I hear you speak, you're always referencing either like new books or existing books.
Yeah, I'm reading on a fairly constant basis. I think it's a very important thing to do, and always has been for me since I was younger. There's the Bible of all of this, which I come back to time and time again, is the 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. That's what it's all about. It's about working less and living more for more money. And the 4-Hour Workweek, although it's outdated now, the fundamentals in that book are absolutely essential to any business, big or small. He coined the idea of the new rich, which basically means rather than being the old rich that are stuck in their banking job or in a certain career or in a town, you can use the new age, the digital era, to get rich online. And rich can be 20 grand a month. If you then live around the world in the places that we know, Thailand and Bali, where you're living so much for that amount of money, and you spend your time living, and you spend your time on hobbies and creating and making friends and living the good life and getting sun and looking after yourself rather than burning yourself into the ground. And the beautiful thing about living that way is the more you live like that, the more money you make, the more open to ideas you are, the more essence and inspiration comes to you, I think. So if I was going to give just one, and it's one I come back to time and time again, and I read for the first time at probably 16 years old, which first gave me that idea of like, wow, you could actually make some money online. You could actually get rich online and travel the world, and things are cheaper in other countries. That inspired me massively, and I keep coming back to it. So 4-Hour Workweek is absolutely humongous.
Have you read Gad Saad's The Sad Truth About Happiness? Should give it to you, man. It's fucking amazing. I had him on my podcast a few weeks ago, and there's loads of good points, but as you mentioned, you want to pill out like one point always for a book or whatever. The main thing he pointed out was this thing called the inverted U curve. So it looks like an N. And he said that everything in life follows that. So let's say you say the pursuit of sex. If you have no sex, you're unhappy. If you have too much sex, you're like a sex addict, and it destroys your relationships. But there's a point in the middle, which is like 2 or 3 times a week or whatever it was. Yeah. Was scientific. Yeah. Same with money, was that if you're building a traditional business and you're making 0 money, you're going to be depressed. If you're making 10 million, you're going to be super depressed because there's so much work involved. But the sweet spot could be like a 1 million a year business, right? And you could apply it to fitness, maybe towards boxing, right? Being a hobbyist in boxing, you get max enjoyment, but when you're doing things, you're at the top of the threshold, and now you're going to be finished it. So of course, it comes with time, right? Because for you, and this is why I love sport to some degree, because it does end, right? The season ends, the competition ends, the fight ends, so you can come back on the inverted U curve. But there's many things like businesses or toxic relationships or whatever, they keep on going, and you can't. It's difficult to unwind yourself back over it. And I have always stuck in my head, man. I think it's very applicable towards a 4-hour work week, because when you're speaking to a guy in Dubai and he's doing $250,000 a month, maybe he's making more money, but he could be depressed out of his head, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the goal is always to live and have some fulfillment in your life and some good things going on. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the things we drive home in the New Elite as a network is you're optimizing your life for life to live. You don't know when it's going to get taken away from you. Things happen so quick. I might not be here tomorrow. Oh shit, I spent the past year and a half just grinding away in my office, waiting for the day where I finally go on vacation. Unfortunately, that day never comes. That day never comes for people that don't understand that they have to start living now. The things you want to do in your life, you have to do them now. Like, because tomorrow doesn't come, you'll remain the same person. If you think you're going to get to a certain amount of money and finally take that rest and reorganize your life, it does not happen. You have to do it now.
There's a guy called Mark Sisson who built a company called Primal Health. You might be familiar with if you've ever been to the States to do like healthy condiments and whatnot. he built a business at 61 years old and sold it for 200 million at 65. Up until that point, he was like super optimized, like, you know, like not enjoying his life, just doing like mediocre, medium-sized businesses, so on and so forth. When he started to optimize for his life, and he, like, you know, he runs a shit ton, he's super healthy, he's a big longevity guy, that's when he built the business.
Yep.
Because he was building it the right way.
Yep.
He was taking his time off, and now he's moved into the footwear business, which is like sleep as a trend a couple of years ago. Foot health is getting really big, and now at 66 years old, he's trying to build like a unicorn company of foot health, and he's doing it healthier than ever been. He's actually 70 right now. Very interesting guy. And he says that, you know, fuck monk mode. Now is a time to like enjoy your life.
100%.
Because
you make more money that way.
You make more money that way. But do you think that there's a point whereby you need to do the short-term pain for the long-term gain, right?
Yeah.
In the 0 to 10K.
Yeah, well, it's like, and you can't just be fucking around like in a fight camp as well. Like a fight camp's a fight camp. There's no getting around that. It's a period of time. It's got its beginning and end.
Yeah.
And I even think like on my journey up to even this point, I've never really shut myself in and like not enjoyed life. I've enjoyed life along the way. I've gone out for drinks along the way. I've seen girls along the way. I found some of my best work times when I was enjoying myself. When I've been away with a girl on holiday and built a certain part of a business just off my laptop because it doesn't feel like work because I'm enjoying my life so much. My laptop's there. That's the beauty of sort of working how we work. Is the happier and better you feel in your life every day, the better your output, the more you want to work.
Yeah,
I think it's important. And also I think starting to become more religious and thinking about God. Who is God going to reward when he sees one of his creations toiling away, wasting his life, just never appreciating what he's got? He's never going to reward you with what you need. But when God sees one of his creations out there spreading love, joy, happiness, enjoying his life, becoming a better person, that's when your rewards are given to you because you're living correct and in the right way.
And taken out of the business, right, versus just plowing away.
Yeah.
Plowing away, right?
You can plow away all you want, but often the things that got you to 10K a month don't get you to 50. And the things that got you to 50 don't get you to 100, and it takes rest to find those nuggets. And
we can finish with one of the last ones we want to finish up on is that kind of transformation into 100K and beyond. So like, you know, we're halfway there. We're at 50K a month.
Yeah.
And I found that, you know, banging my head off my laptop, got me 10K, maybe 20K. And then beyond that, it was much more like strategic partnerships, the influence of my brand, as well as, mainly partnerships, like strategic partnerships and the influence. What else would you say is a part of that equation that's helped you get above that threshold? Getting to 100, a lot of it's a mental barrier. So one of the main things is being around people that are doing the numbers you want to do and beyond, because you have to see it's possible. I would have never thought $100,000 a month was possible. It would have blown my mind. Like $100,000 a year in my head when I was younger was like, you're super rich. And that's what I was making my finance job before I left. Yeah, it's like, exactly that. People in the UK, because to meet someone making $100,000, they're like, whoa, you're rich. Yeah. And like, so that blew my mind. And then I got around people doing over $1 million a month profit in their bank. And then you think, okay, well, 100K a month's kind of easy. It's actually not even that hard. And then when you figure out the online business well, and you figure out branding and maybe and really changing people's lives, and you build a product that's good, and you have a high ticket, like high ticket's your way there at the start. It has to be, because you only need 10K products in a month. You need 10 customers. Yeah. That's not very difficult to do if you find a way to give 50K's value for 10 grand. I would say what you did was actually harder, because you need like volume of people for courses, right? I would say that's actually way more difficult, because like I actually started with that, and then I swapped into done for you service. Yeah. And it's a more manual work, I would say, but it's easier to sell. I'll put it that way, maybe. Yeah, 100%. I mean, the only way we were able to do it, well, the way we make our money's kind of switched. I think at the time we were doing like a 50-50 New Elite and 10K Accelerator. 10K Accelerator being our kind of $600 product one time, and our New Elite being $5,000 a year. And I've put a lot more focus into just building out the New Elite, my high ticket. This is 10K Accelerator is an education platform. It's for the guys at the beginning. New Elite is me and my network. So that's where I put my time and focus. And a lot of our money is now just coming from New Elite only, because we're not marketing that
first course as much, putting most time and effort into the new elite, and then you make your 100 grand with far less. You make it with 20 customers rather than.
And the grass is always greener where you water it.
Yeah.
That's a big learning lesson that I've learned, is the fact that when people are talking about like e-com or SaaS or service business, fundamentally, like you can get to it no matter what vehicle you're doing. And Hormozy always talks about this, is the fact that instead of trying to fill 7 different cups, just fill one cup and go balls deep in it. If you have a flair for e-commerce, you go. You have a flair for it, you like clothing or whatever, you have a flair for it, go for it. But for us imbeciles, you just can't go wrong with just banging your head off a service business for a while, getting that as your moat growing, and then bringing into all these different elements.
Yeah, 100%. Focus first.
Yeah.
Then spread out if you want to in the future. But I still think focus wins.
100%.
There's nothing you can't do. Like, if you just focus on one thing, there's nothing you can't do with that. You can take it to $1 million a month. You could take it to $2 million a month. You don't need another vehicle. It's all shiny object syndrome. It happens so much as you start to make some money. You've probably started to experience it. People want to do collaborations with you. They want to make new things. Just focus on your one thing. It's everything you need, basically. You don't need multiple products.
And that's why, like, you want to listen to people much further ahead of you that are doing the same thing, right? Because I've met people in the service business who are doing 30 million a month in revenue, or 30 million a year, at like 60% margin, right? So they're doing fucking pretty well. So that means that I don't need to go looking for next shiny object, because we can just plow our head off this.
Because it's seen, it's proven.
It's exactly, versus someone telling you, oh no, you should go pick up this and go start this, right? So having that singularity focus has helped me tremendously, and I know it's obviously helped you too.
Big time.
Want to finish up on that point, man. I really appreciate it. I know you're in the thick of things at the moment, so it means a lot, man.
I feel invigorated.
Yeah?
After our conversation.
I feel like you like kicked into it.
I kicked in halfway through. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to go train now as well. So this is really good. Thank you for coming to see me again.
My pleasure, man. Again, many more sessions in the future.
I look forward to it. And I look forward to knocking out my opponent in front of all of you on the 19th of November. Big knockout coming through, and I'll speak to you afterwards. We can watch that back.
Man, that'd be sick. Awesome. Thank you so much, man, again.
It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you, man.
My man.